I've been training calisthenics for almost 5 years now, and I made a lot of mistakes. And today I want to share 5 things that I wish that I knew before starting my journey, so you can implement it into your own training and make faster progress than I did. If I had known these 5 things sooner, I would be at a much higher level now. The first thing you need to do in your calisthenics journey is you need to decide exactly what you want. I'm not talking about the basic stuff here like setting up your goals on a written paper on your phone. I'm telling you to have medium and long-term goals to know exactly what you want to get good at. Because if you truly want to get good at this sport, you'll not be able to be great at everything. What I mean by this is you should choose if you want to be great at weighted pull-ups or the front lever, or you maybe want to be a hand balancer, or maybe you want to do handstand push-ups. The point is, you should choose exactly the few selected areas that you want to get good at and that you see yourself focusing on for the next years. In my case, I want to get great at the front lever, weighted pull-ups, and handstand push-up. That's already 3 things. If I choose one more, my progress would probably be much slower at everything. And this is actually what happened to me in the beginning of my journey. I was kind of focusing on everything. I was just still building up my basics and muscle mass because I was still very skinny. And I was also trying to learn the planche, the handstand, the muscle up, and the front lever all at the same time. And I plateaued in pretty much everything. So the first thing you need to do, decide exactly what you want. Focus on a few select things that you want to get good at. And this can change over time, and that's fine. But have more of a narrow vision in this sport. Choose 2, 3, maybe 4 things maximum that you actually want to get great at and train them. The second thing that I wish that I knew, which sort of ties into the first one, is that the less complexity, the better. You cannot get good at everything, so the less complex your program is, the more progress you will make. Because when there are few things to focus on, you give a lot of your energy to it and you make progress. When your focus is scattered, you don't progress on pretty much anything. Like in my case, as I said, I'm trying to get good at weighted pull-ups, front levers, and handstand push-ups. So that's basically all I do. My workouts are weighted pull-ups, handstand push-ups, front levers, and some front lever dynamics. That's what I do because that's what I want to get good at. I'm just focusing on a few select things that I want to get good at. And this is exactly what you do. What I'm trying to get to here is you don't need 6 different accessory exercises to learn the exercise. You just need to do the one exercise. Maybe with 1 or 2 accessories max. You don't need more than that. Think of it like this. If a 10-year-old cannot understand what's written on your workout program, it's probably too complex. The third thing that I wish that I knew is that if you want to get good at calisthenics skills, but you're still very skinny, you should spend the first few months or even a couple years of your journey focusing on building muscle mass rather than training the skills. It's not going to apply to everyone who watches, but me, because of my genetics, I started out incredibly skinny, which means I basically had no muscle mass that could actually adapt to the training stimulus of the skills. So for me, training skills was basically a waste of time at that point because I still had no muscle mass. Now, if you have a background, maybe of gym training or some sports you did at school or something, maybe you don't need to, maybe you could skip this part. But like, if you're still quite skinny, you should spend the first 2 years or months just getting strong at weighted pull-up, weighted dip, or whatever exercise that you like, just to build up some of that muscle mass. You can still implement some of the skill training, but that should not be your focus if you're still lacking a lot in the muscle mass department. So build a base of muscle mass before training skills if you haven't done so already. The fourth thing I wish that I knew is that bad form is your friend, especially in skills. What I mean by this is, when you're training a skill, if your form is not perfect, that does not mean you should go back to the early regression just to have perfect form. Sometimes, actually, all the times, when you're progressing in skills, you need to do it with bad form because you're adapting to the movement. And of course, you're never going to have perfect form when you start a movement because it's just a new and very complex movement. But bad form is the first point to reach good form. So let's use the handstand as an example. When you're in your handstand journey, you know that in the beginning of your journey, your back is probably very arched. Maybe you even have some bending in your elbows and you're not in a perfect line. Does that mean you should bail out of the handstand because your form is not perfect? No. It's great that you're holding a handstand, because you're getting used to the balance. As you're getting used to the balance, then you start to improve the form. So that's what I want to bring across to you is first focus on the movement, of getting good at the movement, and don't worry too much about having not perfect form. And as you get used to the movement, you can start making your form better and better every session. And the fifth thing I wish that I knew is we need to realize that as calisthenics athletes, food is not our enemy. What I mean by this is you've heard all over the internet that to be a calisthenics athlete, you should be lighter and have less fat so you have better relative strength in relation to your body weight. And that's all true, but that does not mean that you should eat like an ant. I fell into this trap in the beginning because I've always had low appetite. And basically, I ate so little that I didn't even have enough calories to get my strength up in the skills or the weighted calisthenics. So yes, those things are true. You should stay light and have less body fat if you want to get better at the skills. That's very logical. However, but especially if you're skinny, you have low appetite, it will really benefit to eating more, especially more protein. I started my journey at 59 kilograms and I stayed like that for like 1 or 2 whole years because I wasn't eating enough. And then I finally started bulking up a bit, and at one point I reached 75 kilograms, so that's a 16 kilogram jump. And guess what? I was heavier, but my skills were better than ever because I had more muscle mass and more strength. So if you have very low appetite and you're struggling to progress in calisthenics and you're still very skinny, just start eating more. This is your constraint and it's what's going to help you break through the plateaus. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you're interested in learning the handstand and the handstand push-up with my direct help throughout the whole way, you can find it in the first link in the description. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next.